Hello and welcome to the Get Real Football Experts podcast, schedule rundown edition. I'm your host Louie DiBi at DB Sports Talk, and today I will be starting my AFC West predictions. Obviously, you have the Denver Broncos and Peyton Manning, and the Chargers and Chiefs. But today I'm going to talk about. We're going to predict the Oakland Raiders schedule. The Raiders last year did not have a very good season, obviously. Quarterback Carson Palmer did not work out. He's now in Arizona. They now have some very different players. They lost a lot. They lost Richard Sherman. Not Richard Sherman, I'm sorry, Richard Seymour. That'd be pretty good if they had Sherman. They lost Rolando McClain, who's now retired. They lost I already said that. Desmond Bryant. So, they lost a lot of people, and they're rebuilding, but they have some new pieces. Matt Flynn is looking like to be the quarterback in a competition battle with Terrell Pryor and Tyler Wilson, who was a fifth-round pick from Arkansas. The quarterback actually looked pretty good in college. And the defense is very different. They got Charles Woodson back, a longtime veteran for the Raiders, who was coming over from Green Bay. They drafted DJ Hayden in the first round. And also, they lost a lot of people, and they don't have much on defense anymore. And I just think everybody knows that. And they don't look to be having to be in contention this year for the AFC West. I think that's pretty obvious. But they have Darren McFadden still at running back. They have some good receivers in Denarius Moore, and they did lose Darius Hayward-Bay to the Colts, but they have Denarius Moore. They have young receiver Jerron Creener, who I think actually looks pretty good. Lewis Murphy is actually a pretty productive guy. So they still have some key playmakers, I think, on that offense. So the offense is going to have to bail them out a lot, and we're going to start off with Week 1 away at the Indianapolis Colts with Andrew Luck at the helm, Reggie Wayne, Ahmad Bradshaw, and Vic Ballard as the running backs. I think the Raiders are going to lose this game. The Colts are a better team. They have a structure built around their franchise quarterback and Andrew Luck, which the Raiders don't have yet. And I think that's what the big difference maker is going to be, is the inability to stop that balanced offense, even though it's going to be fun to see Charles Woodson versus Reggie Wayne, the two veterans, go at it, unless they put DJ Hayden there, if he can stay healthy. But I think that the Colts are going to win this game. They're a better overall team. It is in Indianapolis as a season opener. There's just too much momentum on the Colts side. I think the Raiders will drop to 0-1. But they head into Week 2, and they're home against the Jacksonville Jaguars, who they're evenly matched against. I think both teams their strong points are on offense. The Jaguars' defense is a little bit stronger than the Raiders, but I like the Raiders to get a win here and improve at 1-1. I think Matt Flynn, if he can get something going with his receivers, I think that Rashid Mathis versus Denarius Moore is going to be a key matchup. But also, let's see what Darren McFadden can do in this game. Hopefully, he can stay healthy this year, and he can be one of the best running backs in the league, in my opinion. And I think that he knows that, and he's got to just stay healthy, because if they want any contention this year, they need Darren McFadden to be healthy. And I think he might be able to win them a game here and there. I think this might be one of them as they improve to 1-1. Again, corner versus receiver. Charles Woodson and DJ Hayden versus Cecil Shorts, and not Justin Blackman, though, because he's hurt. So, Week 3, they're away against their rivals. They're at Mile High Stadium against the Denver Broncos and Peyton Manning and Wes Welker, Eric Decker, Demaryius Thomas, you name it, all the playmakers. But there is some news regarding them. Their starting center is out for the season, so that's never good news. They might call up Jeff Saturday if he said he will. He'll think about it, obviously, if he can. If he'll come out of retirement and go back with his former quarterback Peyton Manning. But I think the Broncos are going to win this game. I just think it's away, and the Broncos are going to sweep the Raiders, in my opinion. They're just a far better team. The Raiders will not be able to keep up on offense against this team. And the Broncos' defense is very good, too. Granted, hopefully Von Miller doesn't get suspended. They brought in Sean Phillips to replace Alice Dumerville they got from San Diego. So I think they're going to lose this game. The Raiders will drop to 1-2. Heading into Week 4, where they're home against the Washington Redskins. RG3 in town. Coming off, hopefully will be healthy at this point, which I'm sure he will be. Alfred Morris at running back. Pierre Garcon's a very good receiver. He can stay healthy. And I think that the Raiders are going to lose this game. But I think it's going to be, I think it's going to be a high-scoring game, though, because I think the Raiders' offense is really going to push this weak secondary that the Redskins have. If they can get their, they lost Brandon Myers, which I think is a huge loss for the Raiders now. They don't have that go-to tight end. Denarius Moore, I think Darren McFadden's going to be huge in the passing game. If London Fletcher covers Darren McFadden, unless he covers the tight end, it'll be interesting to see what happens with that. But I think it's going to be a high-scoring game, but I think the Redskins are going to win this one. I think it's going to be tough with the Raiders' inability to pass rush. Will not be able to get RG3 on his heels. And I think they're going to execute the read option very well in this game. And I think the Raiders will lose and drop to 1-3. So not a really good record as obviously, but they head into Week 5 with some hope home against the San Diego Chargers, which they've had some luck against as of late. They never bend over to the Chargers. They don't really get dominated by them. And I think they're going to take a win here. I think they're going to steal one. It is in home. It's always hard to play at the Black Hole, and they'll improve to 2-3. I think that again, this is going to be a high-scoring game. I don't really like the Chargers defense all that. Oh, actually, I do. Last year, that's what I meant. I didn't really like the Chargers defense, but they made some key acquisitions. They got Dwight Freeney over from the Indianapolis Colts. They drafted Manti Te'o with their second-round pick. Also, you have Eric Castillo in the backfield, but they lost Quentin Jammer, which is going to be tough, as they don't really have that shutdown corner. And what I think that the Raiders will win this game. Losing Melvin Ingram on that defensive line is going to be tough, and I think Darren McFadden should really take advantage of that and really maybe get Manti uncomfortable. And so I think that the Raiders will steal this win, but they got to make some defensive stops. The pass rush has got to get to Phillip Rivers. Don't let him sit back in the pocket. If you can take out Antonio Gates, he does have some other good guys in Danair Alexander, Malcolm Floyd, but I don't think those are the guys you need to worry about as much as the go-to tight end. Also, it's going to be tough for this Raiders run stopping defense, Ryan Matthews, but I don't know. I think this is one of those games that they'll take. It's going to come down to a very close game. I think they're going to have to stick with it. As long as Matt Flynn can keep up with Phillip Rivers, I think that they'll be all right in this one and improve to 2-3 on the season. Heading into Week 6, they're away against the rival Kansas City Chiefs. Arrowhead Stadium's always tough to play to me. They're the most underrated place to play. I think I've already said that, but Alex Smith in town. Alex Smith is the new quarterback. Andy Reid, the new head coach. This team has pieces in place to win now. Jamal Charles, I think, is going to absolutely torch this Raiders defense. I think that's why they're going to lose right here. And the Chiefs' defense is super good. Their secondary, their defense. They're one of the best defenses in the league. They're primed for, I think, a run at the playoffs this year. And I think that, the Raiders just won't be able to stop them, personally. That's what I believe, and I think they'll drop to 2-4 heading into the bye week in Week 7. They face a lot of good running teams this season, and they needed those defensive guys that they lost. You needed to add more pieces like that. Instead, they lost them, which is always tough. And honestly, I think Matt Flynn's going to win the starting job, but I think if they want a bigger dynamic threat, they might want to consider Terrell Pryor. Look what he did against San Diego last season. Honestly, I think he actually looked pretty decent. He looked comfortable in the pocket. He made all his reads, and then he took off when he needed to, and I think he really ran that offense pretty smoothly, in my opinion, and he had 2 touchdowns in that game. So let's go into Week 8, where they're home against the Steelers, who they always give a rough time here. They've beaten them, I think, the last 3 times here, but I think they're going to lose this game. I honestly think the Steelers are Super Bowl contenders. Not many people see that, but I think with Ben Roethlisberger, I like the pickup of Le'Veon Bell in the second round. I think he's a very good running back. That's an upgrade over Jonathan Dwyer and that whole running back by committee last year with also Isaac Redman and Mendenhall, who's now in Arizona. I think, Antonio Brown versus DJ Hayden and Charles Woodson. It'll be interesting how they move Charles Woodson around at safety, at nickel dime, and outside. I think it's going to be interesting what they do, but I think the Steelers are going to win this game. I think they're going to get back at the Raiders for all those losses, and the Raiders will drop to 2-5 on the season. And I think the Steelers' defense is honestly isn't as bad. It's old, yes, but they have some really good pieces. I like the new pickup of Jarvis Jones to replace James Harrison, which is going to be tough for that Raiders offensive line if they can hold that. I think Darren McFadden's going to have a tough game. You're going to have to win through the air, and I don't think they're going to be able to keep up and be able to do that. I'm interested to see how Matt Flynn does consistency-wise, because he's only started 2 games, but both times he played very well against New England and against Detroit, where he set records in that game, I believe, in that Week 17 game 2 seasons back. But I want to see what he can do over a consistent 16-game season, granted that he starts all those games. So Week 9, they're home against the Philadelphia Eagles. A lot of new pieces in place there. Chip Kelly's the new head coach. Michael Vick, we don't know if he's going to be the starting quarterback or not with Nick Foles. They have one of the best running backs in the league in LeSean McCoy. And again, another running back that they're going to have to stop, a dynamic player who can catch and run the football. Obviously, everyone knows that. I think they're going to lose this game. I think they'll drop to 2-6, and I just don't think the Raiders are ready to compete this season. against some of these good teams. I honestly think the Eagles are a playoff team. Not many people are saying that, which I think might be better for the Eagles, that they're not ranked as a Super Bowl contender like they have been in the past 2 years with their all those free agent moves. I think they'll lose. The Raiders will lose this game, drop to 2-6, but I think they're going to have a good offensive game. I think the Eagles switch to a 3-4 from a 4-3. It's going to take a little bit of time for them to adjust to. They have Connor Barwin on the outside, but we don't know how well Trent Cole is going to develop as a outside linebacker, as he is a traditional 4-3 defensive end. But that secondary is also questionable. You have Kenny Phillips and Patrick Chung, I believe, as the starting safeties. Bradley Fletcher and Kerry Williams might add up to be a good corner battle, but corner position. But I think the Raiders really need to take advantage of their passing game, get Darren McFadden involved in the get him involved in the pass game as well, but I just don't think it'll be enough to stop. Again, I think the Raiders defense is going to lose them a lot of games this year with the inability to stop some of these really good offenses that they're facing. And this will happen again week 10, where they're away at the Meadowlands, New Meadowlands at MetLife Stadium, away against the New York Giants, and I think they'll lose and drop to 2-7. And it's tough, but Eli Manning, Victor Cruz, Hakeem Nicks, David Wilson, and Andre Brown. There's so many pieces. For the Raiders secondary is going to have to really hold tight, and they also lost Marcus Huff, who I think is a very good player who's now a starting safety for the Baltimore Ravens. I think that's going to be pretty big that they lost him. And I think I think they might give Tyler Wilson a shot maybe here later in the season when they know that the season's pretty much over. I think you're going to see him or Terrell Pryor in some of these games. Let's see what they can do. I think Tyler Wilson has a very good arm, and he was very productive in an Arkansas team that just could not protect him, which is why he got hit so much in that college system that he was in. But I think they're going to lose this game, and the Giants' defense, though, is a bit weak. I think they can really take advantage. I think it's going to be a high-scoring game, but I think that the Giants just have more weapons than the Raiders do. And I don't know if Darren McFadden is going to even be healthy here, so they might not even have to... who knows? We don't know who's going to even be starting here. So, I think that, it's going to be interesting to see what the Giants are going to do this season as well. I won't get into them, though, because I could talk about them a lot, because I think they're a really good team this season. So let's head into Week 11, where they're away against the Houston Texans. Matt Schaub, Arian Foster, Andre Johnson, and they also got a really good receiver out of Clemson in the first round, DeAndre Hopkins, who I think is going to be very productive this year, plus Owen Daniels. I think the Raiders are going to lose this game as well. I don't know if Raiders fans are really going to be happy with this result of my predictions, but I just think this is what's going to happen. I think they're going to get the first overall pick this season, personally, maybe. We'll see what happens, but the Texans have a really good defense with Brian Cushing coming back, which I think is going to be huge to stop Darren McFadden, take him out of this game. And also they have a good secondary with Ed Reed now in town as the... starting safety, which I think is really, if one of the young quarterbacks is starting here, I think Ed Reed's could really just attack them and make them uncomfortable very early. And also Jonathan Joseph, I think, is going to shut down Denarius Moore. And again, this just inability for a tight end. Brandon Myers had some really good games last season, which helped them win a couple of games. They don't have that this year. Let's go to Week 12, where they might have a shot here, where they're home against the Tennessee Titans. But again, I think they're going to lose this game. 2-9. Chris Johnson is going to have a huge game, I think. The Raiders' defense, they're not ready. They lost pieces. I know there's some really good spots on that defense still. Secondary-wise, but, the Titans don't need to beat them through the air. They have one of the best running backs in the league in Chris Johnson. I think they're going to win this game, but it's going to be, again, high scoring because the Titans defense is probably worse than the Raiders. The Raiders should probably get this win, but I think it's the inability for the quarterback to outplay Jake Locker, who I think is going to have actually a very good year this season. I think they'll drop to 2-9, where they head into Week 13, away at the Jerry Jones playpen against the Dallas Cowboys, and this is going to be a fun one. Raiders take this one, improve to 3-9. They're going to have one upset, and I think this is going to be the one where they take it. I think the defense is going to have to shut them down. I don't think they're going to have to worry about a run game because I do not think DeMarco Murray will be healthy. I don't believe in DeMarco Murray. I think he's overhyped, and I think that, that's just my personal opinion. I'm not a Cowboys fan, as I'm an Eagles fan. Eagles pride. I'm big on the Cowboys, but if they can just shut down Dez Bryant, it's also Jason Witten might have a big game. That might have to sacrifice. But their Charles Woodson versus Des Bryant's going to be huge. If he can take him out of the game, and also DJ Hayden takes out Miles Austin, they can win this game. I think they have to go through the air, though, because I like the Cowboys' defensive line with Anthony Spencer and DeMarcus Ware as they're going back to a 4-3. But go after that secondary. Go after young Morris Claiborne. Oh, this is probably one of the best secondary games of the year. With Morris Claiborne and Brandon Carr as your corners. You're going to have to get your tight end involved here. And I think they could, and I think they're going to get a low-scoring win. Honestly, I think it's going to be tough, but they're going to pull this out, I think. I think the Cowboys are going to crumble later in the season like they always do. And then they're Week 14, they're away against the Jets. And they're a disaster. I think everybody knows that. I think that's the definition of the Jets' offense this season. I'm not going to say defense, because I think their defense is really strong, which is why they win this game against the Raiders. They have D. Milner as a corner, Antonio Cromartie. They did lose Laron Landry at the safety position, and also Jeremiah Bell, who is now in Arizona. So I think that, but I mean, look at what they have on the defensive line. Quentin Cobles, I think he has certain work ethic, but I think he's going to be very productive in Rex Ryan's defense this season. And also, I really like the drafting of Sheldon Richardson. I think he is going to be better than Star Lotulelei, but not as good as Sharif Floyd, who dropped significantly in the first round. But I think the Jets are going to win this game. It's going to be a tough one. But I think the Raiders are really going to struggle this season. Week 15, they're home against the Kansas City Chiefs. They're going to win. I think they're going to split with the Chiefs and with the Chiefs and Chargers, but get swept by the Broncos. They'll improve to 4-10 on the season. They have to take out Jamal Charles, though, or else they're not going to win this. But I think their defense will develop over time at the end of the season, and they have to outscore Alex Smith, make him uncomfortable in the pocket. And also just take out Dwayne Bowe. If you can take out Dwayne Bowe, I don't think you have to worry about anything else in that passing attack. They don't have Tony Moisaki is not really an asserted, very productive tight end in this league. And also their number 2, Steve Breston, is not that as good as he was in Arizona. I think if you can take out Jamal Charles and Bowe, which they're very capable of, they're going to win this game. But you have to have Darren McFadden win you this game. This is another one of those. Get away from Tamba Ali and Justin Houston. Get it up the middle. Run screens. I think with Terrell Pryor, I will predict will be starting by this time. Get some bubble screens. Maybe run some read option. Get the Chiefs defense uncomfortable and limit turnovers, which the Raiders had a really hard time doing last season. So they'll go into Week 16 where they're away against the San Diego Chargers, and the Chargers are going to get the best of them here. The Chargers might be competing for a wild card spot, and they know they got to get this win, as they should beat the Raiders. The Raiders will drop to 4-11, and then Week 17, I think it's home against the Denver Broncos, who might be resting their starters. But even so, with Brock Osweiler as the quarterback maybe, if Peyton Manning's not playing, I still think they have more options than the Raiders do. And they'll lose, and they will fall to 4-12 on the season. I think this might get them the first overall pick. Maybe not. It'll definitely get them top 3. And they need to get a quarterback this season. I don't think anybody on that roster right now is the answer. Yes, it's July, so we don't know what Matt Flynn's going to do, but do you honestly think he's their franchise guy? I think he's just a placeholder for who they're trying to find. I think Terrell Pryor could be, but I don't see what I see in him, what I see in, obviously, Cam and RG3, and even the new guys in Geno Smith and EJ Manuel. I didn't see that with Terrell Pryor. But I did like what I saw in him last year in his start against San Diego, but, I mean, who knows? I don't think Tyler Wilson's the guy, in my opinion. I didn't like him coming out of college. I think their future running quarterback is not on their team yet. And I think next year, there's a lot of quarterbacks in the draft. You have Johnny Manziel probably will declare for the draft. You have Aaron Murray from Georgia. I mean, so you have some really good guys. And also, I mean, there's one guy I can't put my finger on. And it's really bugging me. Hold on one second. Oh, this is bugging me. Oh, yes. From Louisville. This is gonna really. Hold on, I'm gonna look this up while we're talking. But again, next year, and even Clowney, if you can get the first overall pick, I think that you could even get that pass rushing going because if you want to wait on quarterback. So I think that's also. And let me look this up. Teddy Bridgewater, yes. So you have Bridgewater, Aaron Murray, and Johnny Manziel is, to me, your top guys next year. Go after one of them. I think that would be huge to get one of them as your franchise guys. I think Aaron Murray would be the third option, because honestly, if Murray's there, take a pass rusher and commit to Terrell Pryor. just my opinion, I think mobile quarterbacks are huge this season. That's why, well, huge in the NFL. That's why I think you need to get Bridgewater next year in next year's draft, or Manziel, obviously, if he drops, which I think he will. I think that would be huge if the Raiders could take a chance on Manziel. I could definitely see him fitting in Oakland with Darren McFadden. I don't know. I think that's a good fit. But again, the Raiders finish off at 4-12. I know that's not the best record you want to see. But it's a rebuilding team, and there's not enough pieces in place. They have a really tough schedule. I mean, right here you have, obviously, all three teams in that division are competing for a playoff spot. So is all of the NFC East. You have to face the Texans, Steelers. I mean, almost every team they're facing is going to contend for a playoff spot. And the Colts, I mean, except for the Jaguars and even the Titans are going to compete. I think the Jaguars and Jets are the only teams that aren't going to compete for a playoff spot. They have one of the toughest schedules in the league. So that's going to do it for today's Get Real Football Experts podcast, schedule rundown edition. Make sure to join me next time where I do the Denver Broncos. Dave's got the Kansas City Chiefs and San Diego Chargers. And then we wrap it up with the AFC East, and we'll bring you our playoff prediction video. After that, it'll be video. You'll actually see our faces, which has not happened in quite some time. So thank you for joining me here on the Get Real Football Experts podcast. Again, follow me on Twitter at DB Sports Talk for all your NFL updates, and check out my articles at GetRealFootball.com, which is all fantasy. I do fantasy articles, and also check out my Eagles blog at eaglesportstalk.blogspot.com for all that great stuff. If you're an Eagles fan, I know Raiders fans, if you're listening, you probably don't want to see that, but also check out my follow my partner in crime, my co-host Dave, at Dave Crest Sports on Twitter for all your NFL updates as well. And that's going to do it, I believe. The season, it is July 29th. The season is going to be starting very soon. This is the last week of Sunday without football. It's coming. We're going to be bringing you weekly podcasts now that we're back from our trips. We'll be bringing you weekly podcasts. Again, we'll be wrapping up schedule rundowns. We're going to be having a new, we're going to be posting it soon. It's called Wheel of Experts. It's a game show. It's kind of like the Around the Horn, where you get points if you win arguments with related topics with our friend of the podcast, Brendan Harrington, at 716 Sports Talk. So, I mean, Sports Chat, actually. That's a new thing. We also have Duel and Discuss, which is we just play Madden and talk about some NFL topics. It's a relaxing thing. And I think it's good. I think it's different. And I think you should all check that out on our YouTube page at youtube.com/NFL Experts. Alright, I got all my plugs in. That's going to do it. Thanks, football fans. It's been real.